Welcome to the Live to Lift Up podcast. This is a storytelling initiative based on the life, the love, the legacy, and the memories of Sandy Mahonathan. We've named this podcast Lift Up for a very specific reason. The L stands for love unconditionally, because Mom truly and deeply loved unconditionally and with reckless abandon. The I stands for inspire with kindness and through kindness, because it is only in kindness that we can truly seek to better understand and connect with our fellow human being. The F is for foster growth. The T is together we rise. The U is for universal global citizen. And the P is for passion. And today, I am so excited to introduce our next guest. She is a lifelong friend of Mom's. And I'm really looking forward to getting stuck in and hearing of the start of this beautiful friendship that turned into a sisterhood very quickly. And I'm introducing to you all today Vanessa Gounden. Hi, Auntie Vanessa.
Hello, Danielle. It is a privilege for me to be here on this podcast honoring Mom's legacy. It is especially a privilege for me to be talking to you. And I must say, I am so in awe of how you handle this podcast. I think credit needs to be given to your dad and you and Pranay for the ideas that have borne fruit to this. So proud of you, Danielle, where you gain strength into making everybody aware of just how wonderful a human being your mother was. And just to give people hope by listening to the life she lived and how to make people live a better life. So thank you for having me to share in my relationship with your mom.
Thank you so much, Auntie Vanessa, for your generous and kind feedback. Your generosity of spirit shines through. I have no doubt that all our subscribers and our listeners along this journey will absolutely understand why you were one of Mom's very, very close and longest standing friends. On the onset of you sharing what you have, it already makes sense. Your heart, the home that you've created, for not just your own family, but every single one of us, your extended children and family. It really is consistent with why Mom chose you. And I'm really excited to get into the story that is you and Mom for so many reasons. One, because it extends a very, very long journey. It is filled with every part of why we have LiftUp and what Mom lived for and stood for. It's also a testament, to share with our listeners what is almost the secret source of a long lasting friendship into a sisterhood. Because as you've shared with all of us, in as much as Mom was able to, I suppose, orchestrate this weave of connections across the globe, the people that she strongly did this with live by those values too. She saw that in her people. And I'm really excited to kind of dig into what is it that creates a bond so strong that transcends time, space, vicinity, so many things. What is that secret sauce of what keeps love and a sisterhood and a friendship alive? So, on that note, I would like for you to please start at the beginning. Can you please share with all of us how you met mom, where you met mom, what it was like on the onset? I know that there's a cookery class, and if you could maybe even share more on that, but could you start from the beginning and tell us as much as you were able to?
Okay, so I met mom when we were about 13 years old. We both had entered a new school, high school. So coming from primary school and going into high school, there was a whole lot of questions that we had, and making new friends, and what, the whole thing that comes with going into a new space. And I met the young Sandy, and we clicked as friends. But it wasn't in this all-consuming friendship right from the beginning. We liked each other, I should say, at the time. We laughed together. We had fun together. We were in the same class in the following year when we were like about 14. And then Sandy left to go to a new school because at the time Chatsworth was growing. We had all like moved into Chatsworth in the 70s. And your mom then was going to a new school that was created closer to where she lived. And so we reconnected at university, and it was as if time had stood still because we clicked from the moment we met. We traveled to university together. We traveled home together. We went into town together on the bus, or we hiked during those days. It was just a different era, but we had a common background, and we understood where we came from. So similarly, we came from similar socioeconomic standards. My mom was the bread winner in our case, and her dad was uh, that in her family. Uh, at university, we met each other's families. We became close to each other's families. Auntie Mala, for instance, was our chaperone many a time. She was just simply an angel and always there for us. She drove this huge kumbi and took us wherever we wanted to go. And Sandy never stopped talking about how much Mala did for her in those days. Because Mala had started work a long time before we did. Your gran was always welcoming, and your grandfather was always the most jolly human being. I think she also got that from him. He just made everybody smile, and and for the times that I met him, I recall we just laughed at his jokes. And so we knew Sandy's family. She knew my family, and uh, I have two brothers and my mom, and that was my circle at the time. Um, and Sandy was very much aware of my immediate family, and uh, she also got to know my extended family. Similarly, I got to know her extended family because she would cut me along when they were visiting distant relatives. And so we remember instances when we traveled to different places, because that uncle or that aunt was living there at the time. And similarly, she came to my house with the same stance. We were, like she got to know all my mom's sisters. She became close to my mom's sisters, so much so that She would invite my aunt in Joburg, Auntie Anne, and because she realized that she needed company at some times, and she would make a difference in her life later on in life. But originally, that's how we started. We had many dreams at the time. Two girls from Chatsworth, um, who wanted to see the world. And, suffice to say, we did it together many a time. And Auntie Padma gave us both these huge frames with the world map on it. It was to scratch off the places that we have visited. And I remember your mom saying to me, do you realize there's, out of the 7 continents that we have in this world, we have only been to, well, we haven't been to 2 together. The 5 that we traveled on were with our kids from a young age. And, in that sense, we set out to fulfill another dream of keeping our families together and enjoying family life together. And so, you and Brett and Nicole and Reese and Kyle and Daryl and, a whole host of you were always traveling with us, and having your own fun at that. And that was carrying the bond further, because we see that today, um, all of you are just as close as we were. So we had accomplished another mission that we had set out to do, so that our kids always have each other. And Sandy always was there for me, whether it was in a sorrowful moment when somebody passed, and or whether it was some occasion, you know, milestones in our lives, and vice versa. I was always in her circle, and whenever she needed me, I was there. So, although life changed along the way and we never saw each other often, there wasn't a year when she lived outside of South Africa that we didn't see her. But we spoke all the time, and we kept in touch, and we had catch-up chats where we would talk to your mom and dad wherever they were in the world. And we were always planning. We were the best travel planners. And your mother was very instinctive. She wouldn't even think about things like I would. I would say, oh, let's check this out, rather than just going and booking it. Your mother would say, just book it, and let's think about it later. Um, so, I don't regret that we did so much together. All our trips can be summarized in one word, I think, and that was happiness. We were just simply happy being together. Your mom would probably say it could be summarized by the shopping and all that, and because that was synonymous with her name. But when she shopped as well, she shopped for everybody. She didn't just shop for herself.
Yes.
I mean, even if I was on holiday with her, on an adult trip, and we left our kids at home, it would always be us shopping for our kids or for our family, our friends. So that's how we started off, and that's how that's some of the things that I treasure today, the times that we spent together. She was one person I could laugh with until I cried. I literally laughed with, and we cried. I mean, we could summarize ourselves as being naughty and nice. It was we got up to a lot of naughty things, I do admit. Um, we admitted these things even to my mother and your granny, I think, after many years of having done the deed. But we always characterized our naughtiness as clean fun. So your mother came up with that phrase. We always had clean fun. Uh, your mom's aim was always to make everybody feel included, whether it was the youngsters or the oldest people. She would resonate towards making the old people feel included, like she did with my mother. She would uh, join the youngsters when they were in a group and laugh and giggle with them. We did some crazy things on our trips. We had this fetish with shoes, I remember, from the time we were at university. And we didn't have so much of money at the time, but we would go into a shop and buy the same shoes. And I remember her wearing the same shoes as her, wearing the same boots as her, wearing the same anoraks as her on campus. And up until she departed, we were still buying shoes together. I mean, we did some crazy things. I remember once when we were in Disney World, we went to buy these comfortable shoes that we could walk around. And she bought, it was the same style of shoe, but she bought a bronze shoe and I bought like a pewter color. But we kind of swapped one each. So, and we wore it like that, where she wore a bronze and a pewter shoe and I wore the bronze and the pewter. But for that time, because we were in Disney World and just acting crazy. But we really enjoyed each other's company. Even as we got older and our kids got older and the circle grew bigger, the friendships grew bigger, my circle of friends became her circle of friends and vice versa. I met so many people that were in Sandy's space at the time, and she met so many people that were in my space at the time. And the space just improved. And whenever we got together with both spaces, with both groups of people, everybody just enjoyed each other's company. It was relaxed, it was fun, it was just happy moments created by Sandy. And she had that gift. There's no two ways about it. She could just meet somebody and it was like she knew them forever. She did that from the time we were at campus. She would come back and say, I met this girl was telling me her whole life story. And I said, but you just met the person. But she had that gift where people just opened up to her.
Yeah.
And she would look at ways at which she could help them. She continued this helpful streak throughout her life. She helped all our kids. She also identified all our kids as her own, just like we identify all of you as our own. When you're hurting, we're hurting. And same with her. She made a point of helping them in their careers, counseling them when they needed to know whether they were going into the right jobs. Education was a focus for us. We believed that our kids could reach greater heights through education. And I think we accomplished that. We gave you all a good foundation. And this was across all the families that we resonated with. You know, Sandy has left a unique legacy. There's very few people that could have a personality like her. Uh, I just feel so glad that I was part of it. And I miss her terribly. I miss just, having a chat and, talking to her about just anything, making our next plans. It's surreal, but we get on with it and we live with the memories that we hold close to us.
Auntie Vanessa, you have shared so much of a story and a journey from a beginning to a present of so much. And there are a couple of things that I'd like to pull out from what you've shared so freely. So thank you for giving so much to all of us to learn from. And for our audience members, Auntie Vanessa is a teacher by profession. She is now retired, but to the core of her DNA, she is a teacher. And I'm sure you would have all picked that up because along everything that you've shared, Auntie Vanessa, there's been a pearl of wisdom, a lesson, motivation, encouragement, a bigger picture. You've drawn out lessons, you've drawn out memories to be able to paint a picture and share with our audience not only a piece of mom that you will always hold, but also parts of what have connected and grown your bond throughout the years for what makes a long-standing and lasting relationship with a best. And you started off by saying at the very beginning in high school, at the age of 12, 13, it wasn't about anything complicated or over engineered. It was about you just liked one another. So I love that it starts off that simply. Just I like this person. It's nothing more than that. I'm not going to overthink it. To say that mom then left your high school and you kind of reconnected again in university. And although I suppose I like how you framed clean fun, I feel the world could do a lot better with more clean fun thrown in versus things that destroy us, bring us down, remove us from ourselves, remove us from one another. So you had lots of clean memories and also coming clean about that to your moms. I find that hilarious. There's also a sense of innocence and play in that. I love how you shared that it was just about being together. It wasn't necessarily that we were going on holidays or that they were the shopping expeditions or that it was about anything else externally. It was just the joy of being together. And that in itself is so true to what actually makes something wholesome and meaningful and long lasting. It's as simple as that as well, just being together. I love the story or the memory you've shared of swapping the shoes. So one having the one and the other having the other. And I can just picture this. It's grown up childlike essence in Disney World, playing together in your own special way, not really accounting for or taking stock of how others might see or feel or what they'd have to think about or say. You are having your own fun. It makes sense for your bond, and you will do that authentically and jovially, right? There's such a wholesomeness in that whole memory you shared, um, that I feel, again, is one of the secret ingredients to building a long lasting and authentic bond. The other thing that I really love that you were all very intentional about is how you raised all of us. You raised it with consistency of, yes, education is important. And you all acknowledged and valued and recognized that. The other part was, again, keep it simple. It is about being together. So be intentional and decisive about making those choices and decisions to do that, right? Instead of prolonging it or kind of deliberating. Be decisive because the moments are happening. Life is happening. So let's create them as much as we can. The other part about what I feel was so important is that each of you recognized that no matter whose child it was, you're all parenting all of us. That saying about it takes a village, not just saying the words, but actually living it. We were, us as all of your children, we were disciplined, we were given real talk, we were given boundaries, we were set back on track, we were loved, we were given fun, we were spoilt, we were taught respect and values and lessons and how to be better people because you were all co-parenting, as it were. And that's such a privilege because so many, from my personal experience, when people meet some of us, and now all of your children who are now in their next phases, whether they're married, they have children, they're engaged, they have partners, they are off adulting and creating their own lives. A lot of outsiders or people coming into the circle or being brought into the fold always say, this is remarkable. This is such an anomaly because a lot of children, whilst they might be put together as youngsters, they grow up and they separate and they go their own ways and their own paths. They don't really nurture that. And for all of us, what's an anomaly to others comes so naturally because of how we were raised. It's that this is family too. They're not friends. Blood is not necessarily a defining or determining factor for our circle and our friends or our family. It's about the bonds that we were taught for how to create, and that was very intentional. So that in itself speaks to a legacy continued that all of you created together. I really love the quality that you raised about mom, that she could speak to anybody. She really could. She had the gift of the gab. Um, and it was more than that. She really wanted to make life better for everybody that she met in whatever way she could do that, whether it was a conversation, like you said, when it was shopping, it wasn't just for herself. She thought about countless people. Her mind was constantly on another human being and what she could share of herself. And that is a rarity. That is a rare quality for many people, but not for her. And there's such a profound lesson in that, is that she took anything that she had and she shared, whether it was an experience, whether it was a gift, whether it was a phone call, whether it was a photo, whether it was sharing any way in which she could to be able to include and bring somebody else on the journey, and whether that was to include them or inspire them or help them to see the best in themselves, to help them understand what it is that makes them tick, I suppose. But I think deeper to that is allowing somebody to be seen. She saw people. She took the time and the space and the presence to see people. And I believe that that's a life and a legacy and qualities and a foundation for what draws people in and supports them to rise together. Your if you think about the beginnings that all of you share as our parents, were very humble. You weren't materially affluent. You weren't able to be exposed. You created that in yourselves and for yourselves, and you all did it together. You all took each other on this ride and this journey. I'd love to share with our listeners something very special about the Gounden family. So Auntie Vanessa, Uncle Vasu, Reese, and Nicole. And they have had their helpers Zina for a very, very long time. Zena's considered family, and the Gounden family has done a lot for Zena. And as an extension, and once Zena was no longer able to continue as the helper in their home, they continued to take care of her even to this day. Zena was at Nicole's wedding as well, and but Zena is still considered family and taken care of long after her service with the Gounden family had taken place, and to continue that legacy and to continue to lift as they ride, they have now employed Zandi, Zena's daughter, and that gives opportunity and expansion and support for the next generation, as it were, while still taking care of the previous. And that is, again, when I look at this circle of friends, there are so many consistencies with the values and the morals that are very heart centered. It is that our love unconditionally, love your fellow human being, right? Inspired through kindness. When you can show kindness to your fellow human being, you see their humanity, you touch somebody's soul. That light has the impact to transcend not just yourself, but all that's around you. The F in fostering growth. It is the intentionality of grow yourself, educate yourself, be that person and that catalyst for yourself to be able to do that for the others around you as well. Take them on that journey. The T, together we lift as we rise. Absolutely. This circle and family that has been created, and what a privilege, what a blessing, have all done it together. We've journeyed together. And now you watch your kids do the same. The U of universal citizen, universal global citizen. And Auntie Vanessa knows that those 5 continents that we've all traveled together, 5 out of 7 continents together, that's a life of privilege. That in itself is remarkable, right? Is that we have gotten to meet people all across the globe and build relationships and nourish and nurture and have that perspective of a universal world around us. The people from all walks of life that we are able to connect to. But again, it starts with love. It starts with seeing your fellow human being. And the P for passion is that I think when you and mom have laughed so hard until you've cried, that's a passionate life. That's a life that is not half measured. That is not a life that is, taken for granted or, I suppose, waited for. You grab it, you do it passionately, you live with that abundance, right? And I feel, Auntie Vanessa, that this is a life that has meaning on every level. It's also quite a testament to each of your characters, from the humble beginnings that you have come from to where you have all achieved and worked hard for and gotten to today. And it's not over yet. This journey and the story is far from over. Is I believe there's so much in this bond and this friendship that was built from 12, 13 years old in the pure simplicity of liking somebody, to having a vision and dreams and goals for wanting more for yourselves and all that's around you, and to have done that for the next generation. I think that is remarkable and that needs to be acknowledged. And I want to maybe ask you as an extension or the next part of this conversation, in that if you could do anything differently, would you? And if your answer is yes, what would you change or what would you have done differently, if at all?
You refer to my relationship with your mom or just
Yes.
generally?
I think relationship with mom and in general.
You know, if I have to think about it, um, if I have to depart this world, I mean, we will all have to depart this world at some stage, but if I have to do it sooner than later, I don't think I can regret much. Um, I've tried with my best with my family. I've tried my best uh, with my career, um, with my relationships with people. And you win some, you lose some. But I have no regrets because I know I did my part. Um, if I could change anything, uh, I wish we could wave a magic wand and people wouldn't suffer in this world. If I can make a difference to a child's life, so I believe that I've made a difference in the future of a child. And for me, education has always been the forefront of my being. Your mom always commended me for the kind of educator that I was, and she encouraged me and she supported me. I started off being an English teacher in a high school, and I ended up being an IT specialist and a coding and robotics teacher. And when your mom went to Microsoft, I remember she gave me all the support she needed. She hooked me up with people that could help me in my career. When I went out for sponsorship for coding and robotics to give devices to people who didn't have it, she was one of the many sponsors within our circle that came to me. It was heartwarming to say, they believed in what I was doing and they gave wholeheartedly. Your mom was one of them. She had no qualms about telling me, she wishes most teachers were like me. It meant a lot to me to have her support, to have her backing, and just for her being around for me to like bounce off things, I believe she taught me so much. So, if I could change anything, I think I wouldn't want to see anybody suffering, and leveling the playing fields, giving education more wholeheartedly to those that are less fortunate. Unfortunately, in all my life, I think I started teaching in 1985 or so. And right until this day, I cannot say that, the playing field is leveled. Uh, there's such disparities in what one child learns to another child, depending on where they come from, their circumstances. Uh, so that I would change. I would like to see more teachers being more dedicated to making a difference rather than just fulfilling a day's job. Uh, those are the things. I think maybe pay more attention to those who are lonely and need help. Uh, you know, like the aged, you get to this phase so quickly that you realize, how did I really get here? I'm a pensioner at the moment. I've got to this, and when I got to 60, like, we kind of sat back and said, like, how did this happen when you were doing life? But that's just it. You were so busy doing life that you never realize how the years caught up with you. So I would, give more time to people like my mom's age group. She's 88 now, where they need more time. They need, they need not to feel so lonely. Um, having a conversation with your grand, for instance, meant a lot because she looked forward to us chatting with her, and we grew wisdom from her as well. Um, you know, Talking about your mom's passion. Your mom was passionate in many aspects. She was passionate about the HR field, that's a given. She was a leader in that field, in a global leader at that, and I was extremely proud of her for that. She tried. in other fields where she was not so good. For instance, I remember, I don't think we were even married at the time, or maybe she was married because she married before I did. And we decided to do a sewing class, a course where we would attend these sewing classes and make up like a dress, a toddler's dress. And we did the class. We got the certificate saying that we had done that. Your mom and I were very chuffed with ourselves because we didn't consider ourselves being so good in those kind of things. The other thing we did was scrapbooking. She would go crazy with scrapbooking, and we used to go to these scrapbooking conferences, and people used to laugh at us when we said we're going to a conference. And but we enjoyed the scrapbooking conference. It was generally Padma, her, and I that would go to these. And you know what? It taught us a lot, and it exposed us to how we could, preserve the memories. And you and Brett have an abundance of those scrapbooks that would tell future generations many stories. So yeah, we enjoyed that kind of thing. Then she would go on to, I remember during the COVID period, she was baking these exotic looking cakes. I mean, this was Sandy, who was never in the kitchen, because I remember whenever we were together, it was always we having to do everything and she was the runner. And, but she was turning out these cakes, and I was so amazed and proud of her because when she applied her mind to something, she could really do it. That was the passion in her. She also created so many mosaicing things. So the creativity, that passionate creativity came out in her. She created decoupage stuff, where she would preserve photos on items. I mean, I still have items that she did as the Christmas presents. And those things are special, they're lifelong memories, that we will always treasure. So those are kind of things that I think about when I think about her passion and her drive. It wasn't just only for her career. She was like this wholesome being trying to fit all kinds of things into her life. And I think she had the conversation with my mom a lot about the creativity aspects, and so we did try those kind of things, and we enjoyed it to the hilt, in talking also about her creativity. She would come up with an idea. Quite often she would come up with an idea, and I would ask her, like, how did you come up with this? And then she would mention, okay, I read this book, and I'm like doing the Hillary Clinton thing now, kind of. So like, when I got into it with her, the discussions with her, it was like the Hillary Clinton thing was like building resilience in her. She had a tough job. She had to deal with all kinds of people from all walks of life. How does she face it? But she got up and she showed up for hard work. And that was like her building her resilience and, doing the Hillary Clinton thing. I remember us having this conversation about other books that she read. She was an avid reader. She would read like key books that would have an impact on her life. And she would share this knowledge.
Yes.
So I don't know if did you ever read the book Who Moved My Cheese? I mean, that book was like, an eye opener. And all of us, including Vasu, my husband, and everybody in our circle would have this conversation about this book because it was so related. It was told in a fable, but it related to real life. And Sandy would talk about it. The other one was Robin Sharma's,
The monk who stole my Ferrari.
the monk who sold like Ferrari, the monk who sold the red Ferrari or something. Yeah,
The monk who sold his
and
Ferrari. Yeah.
yes, even with all that resonated from those teachings, the teachings of the book, she lived it in her life. She learned from what she read, and she shared that knowledge.
Yes.
We came from, like I said, humble beginnings. We didn't know what it was like to have like fine china in our cupboards, or Carol boys on our tea sets trays, or um, um, like the finer things in life. We didn't know what it was like. But Sandy, having connected in the corporate field and connected with different people from different walks of life, would learn about something, whether it was a product, whether it was a book, whether it was something, and she would share this, and then she would buy it, and she would share, and she would give it as gifts, because she wanted somebody else to experience what she had, and what we didn't have when we were growing up. Or, I mean, not long ago, she took me to the Ardmore factory, with a shop in the Midlands. I mean, I didn't even really go into Ardmore collections previously, but then I realized the value of it in the artwork of it, and that was another kind of fine living aspect that she wanted to, share with everybody. So I learned a lot from Sandy. She wasn't shy of sharing her knowledge, and she wasn't selfish in that way. She just wanted everybody to grow. She wanted everybody to experience the happiness that she got out of certain things. And I think those kind of things will always stick with me. I always remember, you know, if I look at every corner of my house, there's something that will make me think of her. Um, we had this thing about, if she said she liked something that I wore, she knew it was hers. And, wherever we were in the world, and I showed up wearing something and she liked it, she got it. And she did the same with me. So my relationship with your mom, I mean, it transcended friendship. She was my real soul sister. And although we didn't always agree on everything, I have to say, but we had mutual respect, and we never broke that respect. I could tell her that I didn't like certain things. She could do the same. But your mother was always one to say, thank you for making me see it this way, before she would put in her arguments about why she's doing something a certain way. She would make a point of no matter what the angle it was, if she wanted it a negative to become a positive, Sandy will use all the angles to get it there. But at the end of it, when she realized that, she saw it another way, she would say thank you. And, I think I learned from her for that as well, to see things differently, and to, if she didn't like something, she would walk away from it rather than create harshness around her. And I think that's another thing I learned from her. Um, Life is not always easy. You cannot always paint this rosy picture that everything was perfect in your mom's life, or at all stages of her life. And because she was a real person, she was a human being. And I think it wouldn't have been so real if she did say that her life was uh, absolutely perfect. Her career had challenges at times. Everything in life is not always as we hope it would be. She experienced great loss when she lost her sister. She never really got over it. And your granny's lost her mom, who was her anchor for many years in her life because of the early passing of your grandfather. But she started being the anchor for her family. She turned it around in that way. So in her relationship, she always put your dad first, irrespective of anything. She loved your dad. Unconditional love is what you talk about. Um, and I'm glad that I can still have this conversation with your dad now about the relationships that we had. I still have him that I could go to. Um, so thank you for feeling the way you do when you talk about the love that we have in our circle, you know, for feeling like you are my child. And I hope that you and all the children they will know who they are, uh, know that there are many parents and then they can go to anybody that will never let them down, and that we always have your backs, and that we always want to see you happy and successful, and also shattering that glass ceiling when you have to. And so that was Sandy for me.
Thank you, Auntie Vanessa. Again, you've shared so much in the fabric of who mom will forever be. You've shared the depth of the passion and creativity from the career to supporting you in yours to the scrapbooking. Yes, we still have many, many pieces of mom's scrapbooks and items and the decoupage. And I fondly remember those cakes 100%. They were something to behold. It was almost like cakes you would buy at a bakery. You would spend a lot of money buying a bakery because it was just something remarkable. And this is it. Yes, when mom applied herself, anything was possible. She could break through any ceiling. It's true. I suppose her continuous learner streak and I suppose quench for knowledge and thirst for it in how avidly she did read, and that never stopped. It just went from physical books to um, digital books and then podcasts. She never stopped learning, and the reality is that she knew that the more she learned, or the more she expanded her consciousness or her knowledge or her experiences, etc., she knew that she was going to be able to share that with reckless abandon with everybody around her, no matter who you were. She would be able to kind of dig into the archives of her mind and her psyche and share that little folder going, that's where it could be used, and that's who it could support and benefit. She could do that for herself because she knew she was always going to give it away. And there's such a wonderful thing about all that you've shared here is no matter what mom learned, experienced, gained, bought, had, the factory visit included, the Carol boys, no matter what she had, she was willing to give it away. She was willing to unlock every part of herself to be able to gain that experience or whatever it was, to be able to give it away. And I love that initially you'd answered the question I'd asked about any regrets and if you could change anything about this world, right? And to live a life of no regrets, that's a life well lived and a conscious one, because we know good, clean fun, where it's rooted in the heart, the simplicity, the togetherness, the lift up, right? We know that that's intact. So that's a life beautifully spent and lived. In terms of what you are able to change about it, I believe that Insofar as possible, you have and you do. You all have, and you all have done, and you all continue to. Um, that was such a natural quality for mom, in the love that she gave dad, in the lives she created for all of us, in the opportunities that she kind of tried to level the playing field for in her own way and on her own path. She did that. Um, she really did live a life that was tenfold. And a good friend of mine, Katiwe, whose mom has recently passed, unfortunately, may her soul rest in peace. But Kitiwe and I had a conversation about, in this life, we are all bestowed gifts and talents, all sitting inside of ourselves. And in this life, you are granted the opportunity to be able to find that, unlock it, nurture it, and release it, so that by the time you die and you leave this world, you have emptied every part of yourself for these gifts, or with these gifts, for you and for everybody around you as far as you can. And I believe that that is the life that mom lived. Yes, we may say it was short, it was untimely, it was not enough. She still had so much to do, but for the life of 62 that she lived, I believe she gave it all. She lived an unselfish, selfless life. And the best part about it is that she derived true, innate joy from doing it. There was never an agenda, and absolutely nothing is perfect. Nobody is perfect. Nothing in this life is easy when it's worth it, but it was worth it. And I believe that should she be sitting here today, physical form, she would say she would do it all over again. Don't think that she either lived a life of regret. Um, and if there ever was, she knew that there was a lesson that she could gain from it. And like you rightly said, turn it around. Take any situation and view it for, how can I turn it around for the better? How can I leave what I have found for the better? And there was a saying that mom held so deeply to her heart by father, who imparted it to her, of, if there is any good I can do, let me do that, for I may not walk this way again. And that is also in another little scrapbook mom did of her lessons and wisdom from her father that I've got. And all of what you share will, I believe, resonate with the audience listening, because you feel it. You feel it not only because you paint such beautiful stories with your words, and Vanessa, you make it come alive, but because anybody who knew mom knows how that feels. They would know the feelings that you share in the stories. So with that, to conclude this episode, and with all you have so openly and authentically and picturesquely painted for all of us today, I want to say thank you. And there's a concluding question that we ask each of our guests, and it's, Auntie Vanessa, who lifted you up today, and how are you lifting others up, please?
I would have to say that's a multifaceted question because there were so many people. It started off, it would start off with my mom. Um, I still find it very hard to imagine how a 29-year-old young lady uh, becomes a widow with 3 young kids, aged 2, 5, and 7, me being the middle one. Um, how do you get up and show up for your kids every day when your life hits rock bottom? And my mother has shown us that she did it. She had a purpose for us, a mission for us. She loved us fiercely. She was fiercely independent in the process. And all she wanted was us to be happy and us to be educated and us to be successful human beings. Um, so my mom, for sure, lifted me up. My, my mom and my two brothers were my immediate circle, and there's no love lost uh, in that part of my life. And then my immediate family, my husband, who constantly told me that, that I was making a purpose, that I had a purpose in my role as an educator, and encouraged me as well. Um, just my kids, just being there, and just the consistent presence in my life. That speaks volumes. I mean, I'm so glad that I get to spend time with them still, and that we can enjoy ourselves together as a family. So yes, and then, you know, I have a circle of friends who constantly lift me up silently, just by their actions, showing up when I need them. Uh, I am deeply privileged to have that. Your parents fall in that category. Um, all of you, my other children, you show your love to us all the time. You make us feel special. You include us. That lifts me up. Yeah, for sure. So yes, I thank God because I haven't lost my faith. Um, your mom embraced both Hinduism and Christianity without a problem. And every other culture that we experience together, we experience deep respect for any uh, culture and creed. So, when in our travels, when we talk about the happiness that we created, we, we experience so much more, um, learning about people all over the world. And we would go quite often off the beaten track uh, to visit places. Uh, for me, that was an education and on a whole another other level. Uh, yeah, so those are the kind of things that lifted me up.
Thank you. Thank you, Auntie Vanessa. It's a beautiful response. Another one that I felt listening to you. And the latter part of the question, how are you lifting others up today?
Right up until last year, I was a very active teacher. Uh, and I say that because I was in a role at the time. But now I'm kind of working behind the scenes to do the same thing that I was trained to do. So I still have people that come to me for guidance or, on in the fields that I excelled in, and I share whatever I have. Um, I go into schools that are underprivileged and help them get on track. So I try to do that, but I have a full-time job, as you know. My grandson, who takes priority in my life right now, because I just believe that we were so busy doing our job for all these years with our own kids. Although we did our job to the best of our ability, and to hear you say the nice things about us means that we accomplished a lot, but we didn't have the time of doing things the second time around. where you kind of don't have these commitments to fulfill. You're just having fun and raising a kid again. So that's what I'm doing with little Finn. He brings such joy to everyone. Your mom, when she first met him, I was calling her Granny Sandy, and she said, "No, you're not going to call me Granny Sandy. You're going to call me Glammy Sandy." So she was the Glammy Sandy, uh, and she was so much part of his little life for the time that she knew him. She made every effort to spend time with him when she ever could. She spoiled him as she did with many others, other kids. Um, she always wanted pictures and to see how he was doing. And, so yeah, those are how am I lifting others up? I'm paying it forward in a way now with my own grandkid, as well as giving service to others. I still see myself as having a nurturing role. I still have students that I connect with that I taught at a young age that are now married. In fact, I got an invitation to a wedding of one of my ex students, and who attributes his IT career to me, my motivation. So, I, um, I think I feel satisfied with where I've left off, so paying it forward and doing the best I can for the rest of my time on earth. Uh, you know, I I'm not I'm not letting people get me down or anything get me down. I'm looking at what brings out the brighter side in me. You know, I think I'm at that phase in my life where we need to um, be more focused on making others happy. And I always say, it's so easy to be happy. Why go through all the negativity that involves unhappiness? That's my simple take. I just believe it's easy to be happy. You just kind of switch off all the negativity in you and go with it.
Mm.
So that's what lifts me up right now to be able to go on with the rest of my life. To lift others up, I'd like to know that I'm there for anybody who needs me, whether it's my family, whether it's my friends. I'd like to know that, that I have their backs when just as they have mine. That you know, to just be there when the need arises, just to uh, show that you care makes a big, big difference.
Thank you, Auntie Vanessa, or should I say Teacher Vanessa? You really have on this part of the question thought provokingly, selflessly, wholesomely, um, and sharing a part of yourself that makes your heart speak louder. And I particularly felt sentiment around the brightness within yourself. Y- To be happy is a choice. To find your light and your brightness within is your responsibility. And that light that shines so brightly within is then how we give back from the overflow of sunshine, sparkles to everything else around us. So to make that a priority alongside all your other very precious priorities, I completely align with. I think that's true and it is right. And thank you. Just a heartfelt, genuine thank you for being a consistent presence in mom's life, in dad's life, in our family's life, in the friends and the many, many connects you bring from your side. Thank you for being that presence and that nurturing figure. It's made a huge difference and a huge impact, and you have lived a life of purpose. And I'm putting it out there that there are many, many more years for you to still serve and give of yourself. For all the time that you've given here, it has been an absolute pleasure. It's been another perspective and side of mom that you have revealed and given to our listeners. What you've also shared is how to nurture and grow and respect and pour love into relationships. I think that is 100% how we create more of that in this world. And to every one of our listeners that give of their time, that have subscribed, that give us feedback, that comment, that have shared with us how this podcast has inspired you to go and create and do even more with your lives. Thank you. We are all grateful as a team to know that it makes a difference, because this is the legacy that mom would be so proud to continue even in the afterlife. So thank you for the time that you all give to be a part of this journey with us as we all heal together. And with that, thank you. I am sincerely grateful to sit on the other side and to bear witness and experience all that you all are in real time. Thank you. Um, Here is to continuing to lift up, and I am wishing you all more sparkle and brightness in your lives. Thank you.